here at islandproject.com. God bless each and every one of you tuning in. The U.S. stock market collapses over 500 points today on exactly what we've been talking about on this channel for several years now, that hyperinflation has taken root in the United States. And now, with the stock market waking up to this, with the inflation report coming in, as they say, a shock, which this shouldn't be a shock at all. Again, I've been telling you, this is what hyperinflation looks like. This is why housing, this is why real estate, this is why rents, this is why energy, this is why food prices. Just look around you, use your own open eyes and experience to see that the US dollar, the fiat currency here in the United States, truly is collapsing, and your purchasing power is declining every single month as a result of the policies of the central bank, the egregious wars being fought overseas, and the infinite bailouts that have been declared by these same politicians owned by corporate America, such as the PPP loans, such as the bailouts in 2020 as a result of the lockdowns, such as 2008 and 09, the taxpayer-infused bailouts, of course, which really was the beginning of this. We saw this with 2001 on that fateful day, of course, that hit the World Trade Center. After that time, they blew up the biggest bubble that we've ever witnessed in American, more importantly, world history, and it is popping now. And it really is your emergency moment to get outside of the banking system now while you still can. And I'm praying for all of you to rush your money out of those banks, move those retirement accounts, move your Roth IRA, deploy into islandproject.com, the safe haven investment here at the Digital Noah's Ark. And if you need any help with that, please call my father at 808-442-2934. That's 808-442-2934. And you can immediately onboard by pausing this video in less than 5 minutes or less. All you need to do is fill out a quick form. You do not need to be an accredited investor. We have a 30-unit minimum, and you can fund with crypto, ACH, wire transfer, and or credit card immediately today to secure your financial future ahead of what I believe is a banking panic occurring right now. Now, that brings me to our first story of the day. Again, not financial advice. I have to say that. I'm not a financial advisor. Read our terms and disclaimers, see if you qualify. But my main story today has been the same company that I keep beating you over the head with. I say, keep your eye on this. This will be the start of the bank runs. Keep your eye on this. After I predicted Credit Suisse would collapse, which it did. After predicting that Silvergate, Silicon Valley would collapse. Citizen Bank, FTX, never recommended FTX, told you it would collapse, told you Sam Bankman-Fried was an inside deep state scam. He was an insider placed there to bring in regulation into the United States. That was all a plant. That was the motive. That is why he was the second largest DNC donor to the Democratic Party in most of Washington, D.C., outside of the next to George Soros. All of that has been incredibly obvious. And all glory to Jesus Christ the King. I've been proven correct time immemorial in all those instances. But I've also been keeping a keen eye and warning that New York Community Bank Corp is the next bank, the major financial institution in New York that would sink to zero and stem and start, I believe, a systemic shock breakdown in the U.S. financial system and ensuing bank runs. And it's exactly what's happening today, with a key indicator being bridged. And I'm not joking about this, guys. From the bottom of my heart, it's why I designed islandproject.com. It's why I was instructed by God to build the Digital Noah's Ark to protect you and your financial future during exactly the terrible events that are currently occurring now. So, take a moment. Let's all praise the Lord for that, for giving me the insight and the tools and the community. And by the way, congratulations to all of our members. We have just broken new all-time funding rates. This has never happened before in the history of islandproject.com. We have onboarded, all glory to Jesus Christ the King, dozens of you in recent days. Many of you have upgraded to the baller 500 or 1,000 unit tier here at Island Project, making you an islandproject.com millionaire overnight. Congratulations to the Quran family. Congratulations to Mr. DeVries. Congratulations to many more. My dad will be probably weighing in a little bit later today, and I'll be going over other amazing members that have joined with 30 units, 40 units, 50 units. DCA had added another 10 units paying with crypto to their original 30 units, 100 units, etc. Amazing, amazing work, guys. It is an honor to serve as General Greene here at islandproject.com. But I am very concerned. New York Community Bank just collapsed, as I predicted, as I've been warning. This is where the bank runs would come for. God has told me this. Down now 10% today, breaking a critical threshold after closing at 322. See, this is how I knew this as well. Closing at 322, skull and bones, multiple trading days in a row. Over the holidays, over Easter. I keep reporting on it. People are like, Christopher, why do you keep telling me about this? Because it's very important. Because it's been told to me, it's been an instruction that this is what I need to keep my eye on because it will help me warn all of you tuning in. Please like and share of the ensuing bank runs and when I would know, so I could relay all this information to you, that time was short and you had very little time to exit and make your move. And I'm telling you this now, you have very little time, maybe just days, maybe today, to exit the banking system, to roll over those retirement accounts, to move and deploy your cash that is sitting on the sidelines. One of my investors who just upgraded to the 500 units was sitting on a mountain of cash doing nothing. Over $500,000, actually a couple million, just diversified into Island Project, doing nothing. No return on investment, complete banking risk, because of course the FDIC only insures up to $250K per account. And based on many of the reports and information that you are aware of, actually only represents 1.5% of their total available funds, even if they had to cover a bank run event. If everybody goes to the bank at once, says, hey, we want our money back, they can only pay and insure up to 1%, somewhere in that ballpark, of all the 250K deposits that they claim that they can insure. I mean, honestly, it's an outrage that they haven't raised the FDIC insurance limit to $1 million, but they can't do that. See, if they were to do that, they would instantly collapse because they're already insolvent. But here's my point. And I believe it's really getting through to people as I'm seeing people march with their feet, as I see people vote with their wallets and deploy into real assets, into an actual safe haven that earns yield, that has large capital gains potential, and is also being tokenized 1000x on a blockchain. I want you to keep this in mind. The inflation report that came out hot today, which they say is a shock, which is not a shock at all. It's exactly what happens when you print money into infinity, backed by nothing, start egregious wars overseas, and then, of course, bail large corporations out infinitely through money printing and debt. That's just what happens when a central bank is doing that. It's not shocking at all. It's very, very obvious what is going on right now. And I've got my pool guy coming here too, so it's kind of disrupting. But here's my point. My point is that if the shadow stat of inflation is 20%, which I believe it is, more than 20% on an annual basis, not 3.5%, that means you're losing all of your money over a 5-year period. That means that literally your original holdings are sinking to zero and going negative after just 5 years. 5 years of inactivity during hyperinflation, during rising housing costs, during rising rents, during rising food. That means your entire account is going to zero in 5 years or less. Now we're seeing this in energy. I'm expecting barrels of oil to go up to $100 or more in the very near future. I am expecting, as we're seeing gold break out to new record highs, as we're seeing Bitcoin break out to new all-time record highs. Again, all of this has been very, very predictable from the get-go. So this truly is an emergency situation here, April 10th, 2024. I want you to keep your eye on this. New York Community Bank Corp. This is very, very bad news for the stock market. In fact, I believe that central bank Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell isn't going to cut rates. If he does, stocks collapse anyways. It'll still be a bad move. I actually think what he needs to do is hike. But if he doesn't, it doesn't matter what he does. If he hikes, stocks collapse, which would be a more hawkish stance. If he cuts, stocks collapse. Because again, the stock market's always going to front run what the Fed is doing. It's always going to front run the imminent disaster coming. This is why I believe, and I've been warning and stressing, that all America's billionaires have been selling large stock holdings in recent months. Case in point, Jamie Dimon has sold more, and for the first time ever, JP Morgan Chase stock. You're welcome to come in. Just doing a Zoom, which you can clean. Jamie Dimon has sold stock for the first time ever as a part of JP Morgan Chase. That has never happened in the history of the world. I encourage you to follow me on Twitter as well, which you can do right now at AMTV Media, formerly Twitter, on X. And you can see the cast of characters that have been aggressively selling all of their U.S. stocks in recent days. Wall Street insiders dumping. JP Morgan sells $150 million worth of shares. You're good, brother. It's all good. I'm a loud talker too, so don't mind me. $150 million worth of stock at JP Morgan Chase. He has never done this before in the history of his entire career. Bill Gates dumps good portions of his $42 billion portfolio. Even NVIDIA stock, he's been selling ahead of that new all-time high. NVIDIA stock is now in correction mode. It's sunk and lost over 10% of its value just in recent days. We are also seeing other high flyers that have typically been the strength of the stock market, like Tesla, also sinking. So I've been looking at both of those stocks. Jeff Bezos selling $6 billion of Amazon stock this week. Again, the insiders are selling prior to the dump, prior to the average American individual realizing that they need to get out of the stock market. Another case in point, CEO Tim Cook is now $33 million richer selling Apple Computer stock, which he almost never does, in predetermined asset sales as a result of this economic collapse that we're currently living through today. Hyperinflation is here. The reports are coming out stronger than many people expect, but again, it's all expected. We all planned that this would be the case. I have here NVIDIA stock going down, lost about, I think, 3% earlier today. Also, notably on the geopolitical front, we did have the European Court of Justice on Wednesday remove several Russian billionaires from sanctions, which I find very interesting because, of course, the victor always writes the history books. Now the European Court of Justice is removing sanctions and the hold on the oligarchs' money, which tells me Russia is actually winning the war in Ukraine right now, as I also told you would happen, because it's an unwinnable war. Again, the encroachment that we've seen has been unwinnable by NATO up until this point. That is also a very big sign, in my opinion. Interest rates are moving higher as well. If you're tracking the 10-year yield today, you'll see that interest rates are moving much, much higher, affecting all kinds of debt, affecting, of course, credit card APRs, affecting, basically showing a lack of strength in the American economy and a lack of faith as money is pouring into what they appear or think is actually stability, but is actually not stable at all. So this is very, very concerning. Also, being in an election year with just a few months left before we enter that very contentious phase tells me that the Federal Reserve will also play less of a role in the coming months regarding their policy, as we're leading up to the election with Donald Trump and, of course, Joe Biden attempting to, be reelected in that bid and in that campaign. Here's a report that just came out from CNBC. It says Fed wants more confidence that inflation is moving towards the 2% target. So this has proven that the Fed has also gotten everything wrong. There is no soft landing. Inflation hasn't stopped. The debt is at an all-time high. They can never pay it back. Bank runs have started in the United States. New York Community Bank, for example, trading below $3 a share, a critical level that I have personally not seen since the collapse of Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns, leading up into the tumult in 2008 and 2009. We will cut it a little bit short today. I am running a busy day. I have several callbacks for new members that have onboarded islandproject.com. Appreciate your patience as we're working around the clock acquiring more property. I will get back to you. Shout out to the guards. They're looking to onboard another 100 units to islandproject.com. They're already some of our amazing investor ballers here that have gotten out of the banks, realize what is coming to the United States, and that is very important to protect their hard-earned cash in a safe haven asset during all of these events, world war, geopolitical crisis, and of course, the upcoming election, which only seems to be getting worse. Again, very easy to onboard. Call my dad at 808-442-2934 today. You can call or text or leave him a voicemail for a callback. And the easiest way to onboard is simply clicking the link below. you will be invited here by Isle Chain Holdings, LLC. There is a 30-unit minimum at islandproject.com. Once you go through this 5-minute app and press next, you'll answer some basic questions. Fill it out to the best of your ability. If you have any questions, reach out to us. The only people that you can talk to are me and or my father at 808-442-2934. Once you're done filling that out, you'll sign your docs. You will receive a copy and signature upon that as my team executes and signs your first 30, 100, 500 units or more. It's that easy. We accept cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, USDC, all major cryptos, wire transfer, ACH, also credit and debit card payments for those of you that are wanting to split those payments. I have major announcements coming. I love all of you tuning in. All glory to God. Again, we just broke a record funding rate this week, and I believe it's because people are starting to wake up. They're realizing things are incredibly shaky in the U.S. stock market. They have come to absolute terms with the fact there is no stability as the U.S. stock market collapses 560 points today, and as we're getting gross indicators, which we've expected, with gold breaking and reaching new 52-week all-time highs as a flight to safety during what I believe will be panic leading up into the election. Again, protect your assets. You've worked hard for it. Deploy your capital into a no bank debt investment and get into a real asset, real estate, at islandproject.com today. Do it today. You don't have a lot of time left to act. God bless. Jesus Christ is King. Talk to all of you very soon. I've got a lot of errands I'm running today. I'm also meeting with our architect as we build out one of our new spec properties here in Maui. I'm really excited about that. I'll be sharing all the renderings with all of our members and probably even publicly to a certain extent, just to show you how cool it is, what we're building and how excited we are, how thrilled we are just with the outpouring of support, our continued success, everything that's been accomplished, all glory to God, just in the last 16, 17 months since our launch. It really, truly is an honor to serve you. And I want to encourage you that it's important that you take action. Don't sit on the sidelines and observe what's going on in the world today. Don't sit on the sidelines and think, well, what if I would have taken these actions, how much better I would have been. Don't wait to onboard before I close imminently our funding round. Once we hit our 100% funding marker, I can no longer legally offer any more units as a part of islandproject.com. Don't wait until you read in the papers that New York City Community Bank collapses below $1, and then the accounts are frozen at zero, which is what I've been telling you to get out. Again, this isn't the first bank to fail. We've seen massive failures from the largest too big to fail banks in 2008-09. They all needed gross taxpayer-infused bailouts. We have had almost a dozen banks fail internationally, including Credit Suisse, Silvergate, Silicon Valley, Citizen, Alameda, FTX, if we're including brokerages. And I also encourage you to keep your eye on that FDIC failed bank list. More importantly, I don't know about you, don't trust FDIC insurance at all. You are much better off during a banking event, just like during 1929 and the Great Depression, having 100% private ownership and equity control over your money in a stable asset that always has real appraised value, that also produces income and potentially large capital gains, not to mention being tokenized on a multi-billion-dollar blockchain. This is what the wealthy have been doing in recent years. This is why, of course, Bezos has been buying all kinds of property, not just in Maui, but also Palm Beach. Other technologists from Sam Altman and others are also diversifying into real estate, and the smart money is getting into assets they control. Even arguably art is a better investment than having your money at a bank. Again, art really isn't taxed also. There's no property tax on art. There's taxes, maybe on a gain. But I was even thinking about that yesterday, even when it comes to art and jewelry, for example. By the way, this particular watch is being discontinued. I just found that out. I'm expecting the price of this to skyrocket because real assets always move up in value. Money at a bank goes down. Now that it's been confirmed that Jerome Powell was wrong, that inflation really is at more 3.5% based on their official reports, but we know over 20% on the real shadow stats that are being spent funding wars and all this calamity overseas. Every 5 years, you're at zero. I want you to think about this. Every 5 years, you're at zero with your money at the bank. It is the worst place for your money, and this is why I've been telling you incessantly that cash is trash. for a very long time. Get out of cash and get out of the banks and do it with us at the Digital Noah's Ark now at islandproject.com. God bless you all. I will do shout outs of more members, more beautiful investors when I have more time today, probably in a follow-up video as we follow world events and get to our next story. I will also keep my eye on the close as the stock market is down near 600 points already. Earlier this morning, it will be closing very, very soon. And see where New York Community Bank closes. Keep in mind, Steven Mnuchin, the former U.S. Treasury Secretary, has actually injected his own funds from some of his companies to keep NYC Bank afloat. Let's just take a look at that so I can document that. I also encourage you to find me at Rumble. It has a much more bigger collection of my entire archive of videos. Make sure to do that. But yes, we see New York Community Bank now at 2.93 after its previous close of 322. Just a direct straight shot down to zero. This is when Steven Mnuchin started injecting it, arguably with like public funds at that point. It bumped up very minimally, and now is on its way back down to zero. Keep in mind, New York Community Bank absorbed the previous collapsing banks, I believe of Silvergate or Silicon Valley, one of those. So once they absorb the failed asset, then they collapse. So whoever absorbs this will collapse next. So it doesn't matter if there's a bailout or another absorption or another consolidation, the next bank that takes it over collapses. And this is the point. They have no options left at this point. Interest rate policy doesn't matter. None of it does. The only option that they have is to reset the system into CBDCs by breaking and changing the rules, creating massive inflation and debt for America, destroying the middle class, sending people into poverty where they can no longer own anything, which is the same reason why BlackRock and others are buying all the real assets in the world today, whether or not it's single family homes or the entire stock market, which is arguably outright owned by large corporations and not the average person. People ask me a lot, Christopher, how do prices keep going up in homes? How is this continuing to happen when the average person can't afford it? It's because BlackRock and private equity is the buyer. See, they don't need you anymore. They're buying it all. Once they buy it all, they securitize the asset on Wall Street, sell it to you with fake paper assets, create more inflation. And of course, as they move to blockchain and the whole world moves to blockchain, the same reason that they're buying Bitcoin in droves is to buy the underlying native asset so that they can control it. This is why they tell you you will own nothing and you'll be happy. Love you all. Over and out. Links below, I'll add them in a minute, and I'll share across social media as well. Have a blessed day, and thank you for your comment, and thank you for all your love, support, and shares, and welcome aboard all of our newest investors as well.